Yeah,
Great.
you just feel all kinds of comfortable. That's the idea.
Yay.
All right. Well, we're on. And so hello, how about you tell everybody your name and just a little bit about you, Susan?
Hey, everybody. My name is Susan Ivany. My artist name is Auntie Sue. That's what I'm performing under. So that's been fun. Uh, I'm originally from Staten Island, New York. I live out in the Mojave Desert now. It's
Wow.
hot, but it's beautiful. I enjoy it. Um,
Yeah. Okay, already I have so many questions. So your stage name is Anti-Sue. How'd that happen? What's going on with
it
your
it's a fun story, actually. A year ago, our mutual friend Connie's sister has a radio show. My 10-year-old great nephew wrote a rap song and he asked me if I could write him a beat. That's how this whole thing started. So I wrote him a beat. Karen put it on the air and we needed a name. So instead of him going by Mason, he loves Machine Gun Kelly. So he wanted to be MJS. So I was like, well, I'll be Auntie Sue. And it just, because I was his aunt. So it just kind of happened. And the name stuck. It just, I don't know. It was fun. It was fun. So
That's really great. And
yeah.
but it's Auntie Sue, but it's spelled Anti-Sue.
Right. It's ANTI. It's kind of a play on words because it's like I'm the Auntie Sue of everything I've ever been in my life. I've changed everything around. It's also when I first decided on the name, I looked it up and it's a TV trope. An Auntie Sue type is somebody who like all the misfortunes of the world happens to.
Oh, who
And
knew?
I know. And I was like, wow, that's another aspect because I did have a lot of things happen, but I mean, I've always bounced back from it, which is really cool, but
Yes,
there's been a lot of stuff. So the name just kind of fit.
it really
Anyway.
does. Yeah. Amazing. And you're in the Mojave. Do you want to say a little bit
Yes.
about that?
Oh gosh, what's really fun is now I'm on the Arizona side, which is spelled with an H. The California side is spelled with a J.
Yes.
I don't know a whole lot else. It's hot. It's hot. We're gonna probably hit one between like 118 and 120 today. So yeah.
Oh my goodness. We just think
But
it's hot here.
yeah.
I'm not
But
far
it's
from
a
Staten
dry
Island.
heat.
Yeah.
It's a dry heat.
That's what they say. Yes. That's nice. All you take. I remember the first time I was 22 and I was in Las Vegas in like July and somebody
Yeah.
was frying eggs on the hood of their car.
Yes, they actually do that here. There's a town called Oatman. It's maybe 10 miles away. And they have that once a year. They have they have a day where everybody comes and they fry eggs on the sidewalk. It's their thing. It's crazy.
It's a little
But yeah,
easier on the hood of the car, right? Because that gets hot, from
it
the
is. It
metal.
is.
Well, in the old days, it's metal. Who knows what it is now?
Right.
Yeah. Awesome. So I want to back up and
Mhm.
go back to the very beginning and a little bit about your soul journey, like whatever you want to share with us, kind of about the sweep of your soul journey. I'd love to hear.
Okay. Well, I've been doing music my whole life. I started singing in choirs and in church and in high school and shows. So that was always my thing. I was just, that was my calling. I was going to be a singer. And I was doing really, really good up until I got Lyme disease.
Mm.
And I got Lyme disease when I was 29. So I've had it for a long time and it took me out. I kept pushing and pushing, but it took me out about 20 years ago. And I was no longer able to perform. So I just kind of gave up music. I figured, well, I can't be in a band. What else is there? I can't perform live. So fast forward to the pandemic, and I found GarageBand a year ago, and I realized that I wasn't done. There was more stuff in there. So even though my voice wasn't as strong as it was because I had a vocal cord injury and the Lyme disease, I found a new way to do it. And being able to learning how to write music and produce music changed the game for me, because now I wasn't just focused on my voice. The focus was on the music. The focus was on the entire song, the process. It changed everything for me. So what I lost in the youth of my voice, in the strength of my voice, I gained in character, and I gained in other ways. So the journey has been amazing. It's not always easy, but totally amazing every step of the way. At 60, I never dreamed I'd be doing this again. So I wake up every day just thankful.
Yeah. So, hey, help me with, sorry. Help me with my math. You said you got Lyme's at 29, and that was 20 years ago. So we lost.
No, that was 31 years ago. I got
31. Okay.
Yeah,
I misheard you.
Yeah, no, it took, I kept pushing, and I kept performing through it for maybe 10 years, but then I couldn't do it anymore. I got too sick.
Too sick. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you got chronic Lyme's. When did you know right away that it was chronic Lyme's?
No, it took them 4 years to correctly diagnose me. They didn't know what was wrong. So that was a journey in itself. That was, you think you're crazy because you go and they do all these tests and nobody can figure out what's wrong with you. And then finally you hit the right doctor. It's like, yay, not yay that you got something, but yay that they know what it is, that you're not crazy. So that was interesting. It laid me up. It put me in a wheelchair for about 9 years.
Wow.
I did 5 years of pulsing IV antibiotics, and that's what put me into remission. So it took many years to get there. Yes. Now, you never get cured from Lyme, but if you can get yourself into a remission, and then you change your lifestyle. I do green juice every day. I work out. You just have to be no sugar, no gluten.
Right.
But you can do it. You know, it's manageable. It's not easy, but it's manageable.
Right. And then you feel like you're fully back to strength, forward to your new self.
Yes, pretty much. I mean, I have to be careful. I have to make sure I keep in balance, because every once in a while I go out of balance, and I can see it if I work too hard, or if I do a little, if I do too much. So I just have to kind of keep that in mind, which is why your meditation group has been helping me so much. That's helping me find balance. So thank you for that.
That's why I do it. Yeah. I have a lot of matching picture with you about the Lymes. So yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Almost the same story. So
my gosh.
Yeah. I didn't do antibiotics though. I'm doing Chinese medicine, which seems to be great.
That's wonderful. There's so many different approaches. There really are. But yeah.
So
I had no idea we were connected that way. Wow.
Oh, yeah, amazing, right? I don't usually talk about it that way because it's layered. There's a few other things going on. So I usually just talk about like autoimmune, but that's very, that's the nail in the coffin, I think. So you you have on your information on Facebook, you have like Lyme's Warrior and stuff. Do you do advocacy work? Do you do any of that?
I haven't been lately. I did for quite a while. I find it difficult to stay in the fight when I'm in remission, because it keeps the disease in my head too much. I need to walk away from it sometimes to not
Yep.
be thinking about it all the time. And that's the only way I can describe that. I do as much advocacy as I can from it, but sometimes I just need to walk away and say, I'm healthy, I'm good. I can't bring it all back in. It's it's difficult, but
Right. Yeah. Yeah. To stay with our eyes on the goal, not on where we're tripping.
yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. Okay. So would you mind talking a little bit about your spiritual background and how that's
Oh, sure, sure. Well, I grew up Methodist, and when I was about maybe 12 years old, I started going to a Pentecostal church on my own. And I've always been a seeker. I remember from a very young age. I remember just having questions that I didn't think like my friends were into. So I would just go to church on my own and just kind of do that. I had a little problem. I don't know if this is the place for it, but I think I should probably share it. I was molested in that church. So I don't dwell on it, but it's part of my journey. It's part of my, and I've dealt with that the last couple of years. I went on, it's very funny because I went on in ministry. I did music ministry for about 10 years. I was doing some pastoral ministry, but I still hadn't dealt with all of that.
yes.
So it was an interesting journey. When I started dealing with that is kind of when a lot of things changed for me. My journey has taken some turns. I don't think I believe the same way as I used to. It's hard to even describe it because it's evolving. It's all new for me.
Yeah.
I love God, but I think in the church I was seeing him in a very ritualistic way, in a very religious way, and it didn't jive with what had happened to me. The whole thing just didn't make sense in my head.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm starting to see everything in a little bit different light. I don't believe that there's a vindictive God. I don't believe that certain people are going to hell. Certain people, I don't believe in that. I don't know why I even bought into a lot of that in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
But that's where I am now. I'm seeking. It's a fluid journey because it's happening right now, and that's the only way I can really describe it. If that makes sense.
It makes complete sense. I mean, your story is a huge story. This, bad things happening in the church, taking it, and then finally dealing with it, and everything morphing from there. This is a story for so many people. So thanks for talking about it.
Oh, that's no problem. I decided when I started this that I have to be an open book about my life. If I'm going to share, songs to me are part of your soul. It's really, you're sharing your heart with the world. And if I can't share heart halfway. If I was going to do this journey, I had to be open to share everything. So I'm putting on my brave hat and just going out there and just doing it. So
fantastic. Yeah, because you're seen, and everybody, whether they know it or not, they're resonating with you on all these different levels. So we didn't know we were resonating on all these different levels.
Exactly. It's very cool.
And you're just real. And so people who resonate with you, like me, are attracted to you, and vice versa. And then that's how the following happens. So your willingness to open kimono makes such a difference in the physical, but also in your soul, because then your people are attracted to you.
Wow, that's real interesting. I like that. I like that.
Yeah, yeah. And you can be a healing presence because you're a little ahead of some of those people who are transitioning. I think that's what a soul
Mhm.
leader is. You're a little ahead. You're willing to be it. You're willing to be seen and be, your difference, your what happened, what you're doing now, what you're thinking now. And people are like, oh, that I like that. That works for me. Let me try that too.
Wow, that's really cool. I just love the connection, how we all help each other, and it's just wonderful. It really is. It really is. Oh, being open and honest, it changes everything. It really
Yeah,
does. It really
it does.
does.
It does. I just saw a meme on Facebook about authenticity and
Mhm.
how, it can be hard for everybody, but how helpful it is. Um,
Yes.
and all
It's
the
yeah. No, I'm sorry. I was just gonna say, yeah, it's not always easy. I know I did that video in my bathing suit, and I know I I got a little bit of hate on TikTok, but it didn't bother me because I realized, I wasn't at 60 years old. You don't put on a bathing suit to be sexy. It's like I think a
most
few
of
people
us
might
do
have,
it.
some people might have misinterpreted that. It was, I was terrified of anybody seeing me in my bathing suit my whole life. I don't know why, but it's been a terrifying thing. So it's like, okay, we're going to do this video. And my collaborator, Mitt's like, you have to do this in your bathing suit. I'm like, you're crazy. He's like, no, you have to do this in your bathing suit because for you, that's the power move. And I thought about it. Next day, I pulled on my bathing suit and jumped in front of the camera. It's like, okay, got to do it.
Right. Again, being a soul leader, right? It's just like, let's just take the power out of this. I'm
Right.
60. This body, live with it.
Yes, yes. And it's so funny. Somebody on TikTok said, yes, loose skin and wrinkles. And it didn't even hurt me. It made me laugh. So I went back to her. I said, yes, and tons of scars and lots of wisdom and stories. Getting old is not easy, but I'm living out loud and I'm not afraid of what anybody says anymore. And honestly, it did not even bother me. I don't know what I was so afraid of my whole life. I was afraid of that comment and it did nothing. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And even the haters, they get the modeling, like they got where they are for the modeling and
Yes.
they can get somewhere else from your modeling. It's just like, yeah, wrinkles, loose skin.
Right. It's part of me. It's part of my story. It's not easy getting to be 60. You get to this age and it's like, okay, but all the other stuff, it's like the wisdom, the stories, the character, the confidence, the things that we gain with age. I mean, sure, we lose some things, but we gain so much. I believe anyway. I love being this age. I never thought I would, but I absolutely love being this age.
Amazing. And what I thought when looking back, because I just saw that this morning because we had interacted and then I saw your page for the first time, really. I mean, for the first time I really looked at it, at least in a while since I met you. And I was just like, I was in love with you just being right out there and playing and singing and dancing and being in your pool and just doing all the things. And now I find, you've been living with chronic illness for like half your life.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like, gosh, you look great at 60,
Thank you.
having been through all this. It's just like, for me, I'm just like, that's amazing how
Thank
good,
you.
vivacious you are.
Thank you. I really attribute a lot of this to the changes in my diet. The going sugar-free and gluten-free changed the
Yeah.
game for me. I work out every morning. I'm down at the pool for at least a half hour to an hour, depending on the heat. But I try and get some workout in, and balance. Those are the things I think that if I can keep in balance, and I think just as you get older, you got to be a little bit more careful, kinder to your body. But yeah, I went through I went through a time back in just a few months ago, I was misdiagnosed with dementia.
Mm.
Didn't know what was going on. I started forgetting things like my phone number, my passwords. It got really bad, and I went to see a doctor. He said I had dementia, and they put me on Aricept. I figured my life was over.
Right.
I went to see a couple of specialists, and they were like, "No, you don't have dementia. We think maybe you might have had a mini stroke. You had some kind of event that acted like that." I was like, "Whew," because that was a scary thing. But what came out of it was I went through this maybe a month where I really felt hopeless, because what do you do when you get a diagnosis like that? It's hard to even know what to do. It's kind of like the hope goes away. And when hope is gone, there's nothing. I
Yeah.
realized that hope is everything. But I think on the flip side, what that did for me was I was in such a bad place. And when I came out of it, everything just seemed amazing. It was like, oh my gosh, I get to do music. Oh, wow. I get like, everything was just amazing because I thought it was all over.
Got your life, new life.
Yes, exactly. Okay, Callie, but exactly. So, so I, in a way, it was a good thing. You know, it seemed like a bad thing, but it made me realize how much life was there, and just how amazing life is, and just everything. I'm just soaking it in and eating it up right now because I thought it was gone.
Yes. And part of that is, I remember when I asked you to do this interview, I had been reading, you were talking about, I think on Soul Leadership, you were talking about just going full bore with music for the
Yes.
last year and really dedicating your attention,
Yes.
intention, focus, your time to learning and moving forward. And
Mhm.
so I just found it so inspirational. If you wouldn't mind talking a little bit more about that. I mean, so inspirational for me.
Oh, thank you. That, I have always been a starter, real good starter, and not a good finisher. That's been the story of my life. And I decided I needed to write a new story. It was time for that to change. When I started doing music again, I realized the potential of it, but I also realized I had a lot to learn. So I enrolled back in school. I'm doing courses at Berkeley. I'm almost finished now. I did DIY musician, um, songwriting, arranging, and vocal production. And that has been amazing, because now, like what I had on the GarageBand, now I know how to use it because I was just playing in the beginning. I was just like, oh, I wonder what this will do. And I'm writing these songs, and I'm like, I wonder if I really knew what I was doing, what I could be capable of. So I just did it. You know what, this pandemic, I mean, it's been bad in a lot of ways, but in a lot of ways, it's been good because it's allowed time. I've never had a year before that I didn't have to worry about going out and making money and, and doing, and just all the things that come with life. To have 1 year where you can concentrate on whatever it is you want to concentrate on was precious.
Yeah.
That was precious for me. I concentrated on music. It was funny when I first, my journey started July 4th, 2020. That's the day I picked up GarageBand. So it's been just a little over a year. And by the end of August, I already had 2 songs up on YouTube. And I realized this is doable. This is like, and that's another thing now too. Independent musicians, like when I was coming up, you had to be signed by a label. There was no way to get your music out. And now my music's on Spotify and Amazon and like everywhere, because we can do this now. Thank you, technology. It's provided a lot for indie musicians. So
Yeah. So there's not that vetting. There's not that doorkeeper in this, not nearly in the same way for
no,
music, for any kind
for
of
any kind of art.
art and any kind of leadership. There's
Yes,
vetting. You just go out there and do it.
exactly. And there's an audience because people are hungry for it. People are hungry for authenticity, for the truth, for they don't always want what's coming out of the production machine. So
Yeah. And
that's
also there's something very attractive about the everyday person in art and in leadership and in I have the Everyday Modern Mystic group too. It's just like I don't really care what the big old mostly dead mystics are saying, bless their hearts, right? But there's millions of us that are doing it every day. Let's pay attention there.
yes, I
And
agree.
with music, it's like we grew up in a world where it was just like only the perfect radio people got to
Yes.
sing, and the rest of us, are just like, oh, and now it's just like it's really even the field.
It has, and it's great to be able to put stuff out there like that. And like this artist that I'm producing, the Myth, he has such a heart for we just dropped that song 2021, and it's just so touching. And years ago that song couldn't get out, and it's out there now, and it's going to help people get through this. And I love that there's that potential now, that when there's something that has to reach the world because you got a message in it, there's a way to get it out and reach people. I love that. That's
Yeah. And he seems just adorable. What's your relationship with him? How's it been with him?
Yeah, well, we're neighbors. We met during the pandemic. We actually did a little video about how we met, which was fun. Yeah, and for the first couple of months of the pandemic, he was downstairs, I was upstairs, and we were doing the same thing, and we didn't even know it. And then one day we met out in the parking lot, and we got talking, and we're like, oh my gosh, we're both musicians. Okay, let's do a collab. And that's what happened. And then we just we decided to, and that was, let me tell you, filming a video. We filmed it when we had that really bad heat wave.
Oh,
We had to be out every morning because we were filming in this area. We had to be out every morning at 4 o'clock.
oh,
And we had to stop filming by 8 because it was just too hot.
yeah.
So we were running all over. We went to the airport. We went to Harrah's. We were just running around filming this thing. And like when I looked at the finished product, I'm like, here it is. We wrote the song, we did the video, the whole thing was done on an iPhone. That to me is amazing.
Isn't it?
There was no production team, there was no recording studio, everything was done on my phone. I love that.
And with a tripod, I assume.
Yes, yes, a tripod. I'd film him, he'd film me, and then we'd use the tripod for the scenes we were in together. So.
There's some parts of that. You're in some kind of beautiful open air building. It's gorgeous. I don't know what it is, but
That's Harrah's.
Oh,
That's the Harrah's Casino. We were there at 6 o'clock in the morning before anybody was up to try and film some of those spots. They were very pretty.
yeah.
Very pretty spots.
That's great. It's so wonderful to meet people to help us along in the dream. He helps up, you help pull him up.
Exactly.
Wow.
That's been fun. I never dreamed I'd be making music again, let alone producing another artist. That never even entered my mind that I'd ever know enough that I could do that. So that's been a lot of fun. That has been a lot of fun. Because I know that even, if my voice gives out or if whatever, I can stay in this because I just love the music. I'm at the point, I don't even care if it's my song. I want to be doing music. I want to be involved in the process. So
that's beautiful. Great. So you've been extremely focused for the last year. Is there anything else you're doing? I mean, you're doing meditation with me once a week. I'm so grateful for
Yes.
5 weeks, 6 weeks. You what are you doing anything else for fun or relaxation or relationship?
Right, right now, no, there hasn't been time. But that's something I actually made a decision yesterday. We've been going very hard just because we're at the beginning and you kind of have to. But now we've got enough songs and videos to release for the next 6 weeks. So we've decided to take a little break. We're only going to do work on one song a week instead of trying to get 3 done in a week. So
That's really amazing how much output you have. Yeah, one sounds like then you could, you can rest and you can play a little and you can integrate new inspiration.
that's it. And I need to get back to that was the only thing about this process that I love creating. I love that part. The after the release, the promotion and all of that's always been hard for me.
Mhm.
And you do kind of get caught up in it because you have no choice. You've got this thing and now you've got to get it out there. So I'm trying to find a way to step back and get to create more and not, that's the balance. That's where I'm finding balance problems, because when you're starting anything, you have to be on fire. You just have to go for it. And that's where my age comes into play. That's the only time.
Say more. How you're
Yeah. Oh no, just because when I was younger, I could go on 5 hours sleep. Now that kind of stuff. Like I have to.
Yeah.
I can't push myself the way I used to.
Yeah. 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 Okay. So are you happy to keep talking? Because I have questions.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So you say you love God and you have for like your whole life.
Yes.
But it keeps iterating, like the thoughts about it, the theology, doctrine change, but also has your direct experience changed? Has your love relationship, your divine dance, how has that changed?
I'm finding this one thing I love, the still small voice is still there. I still hear God whispering in my ear when I really need it. When there's something that I really need, I feel so connected that he'll whisper things like, this was interesting. And it happened in your group, in the Everyday Modern Mystics group. I had posted something back in February about the dementia, and a woman from the group and it was about God whispering something in my ear. And the woman in the group messaged me. She said, God just whispered in my ear, misdiagnosis. Yes.
I love
what that did to me. Oh my goodness gracious. That I get goosebumps when I think about that. And then about an hour later, I was having a conversation with a woman on one of the Lyme boards, and she was saying how she was misdiagnosed with dementia, and it turned out to be something else. And that day, that turned me around. So that's how I find God. God whispers in our ears, and yeah.
In ours and our friends, and
yes,
and heaven knows who, and they are like, they have enough faith to say it to us.
Yes. And that was beautiful. I was so glad she stepped up and spoke that was life-changing for me. It really was. And I think we don't always realize sometimes you can just say something like that to somebody that you think is random, but it's life-changing to them. Life-changing.
Yes. And after we had the meditation thing last night, and afterwards, some of the healers and I were talking and about how you learn to trust yourself, trust information and say it and share it. And the basic consensus was, practice helps, and you keep doing it and you find, oh, it actually does help. It actually does land.
It
So
does. That's very
yeah.
cool.
Have you gotten words and impressions for other people or just yourself?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you
Have you
said.
gotten words or impressions for other people as well, or just yourself?
Now, in the past, I've gotten words for other people more when I was in the church. I used to get that a lot. Not so much every once in a while in conversations, with the myth when we're having our collab sessions, I've gotten something, but I think I've been too busy lately, which is why I'm doing the meditation group, because I need to find that kind of outlet for myself, where this has all been so many new experiences, and trying to do school and my music and then producing somebody else. And with all of that,
Yes,
that's been important to me, trying to find a way to keep my focus and my balance.
yes.
So, yeah.
Are you comfortable talking more about the molesting and how you process that? Is that okay?
Sure. No, sure. We can talk about
So,
that.
yeah. So what, like, about the, you don't have to say what happened, but like how you processed it for yourself at the time, how you tried to, what did you try to get help? Did you get believe, like what happened for you in that process in church?
I'm a little disappointed I've been a little disappointed in myself, the way I handled it, because I didn't tell anybody. I kept it a secret. And that's what I've been asking myself that question for a long time. Why was I so afraid to tell anybody? Because I remember I had a talk with my mom. I was probably in my early 40s at the time. And that's when I finally told her what happened. And she told me, she says, I knew something happened. I couldn't figure out what it was. She goes, you totally changed after that. Everything changed. And she goes, I wanted to help you, but I didn't know how. And yeah, I know. After it happened, I ran out of the car because we were going. Let me just start over. We were this person was the elder at our church, and he was also the chaperone for all the youth groups. I know, it's sad. It really is. So we were at a skating event, and he drove everybody home, and he drove me home last. He parked over by the church and just kind of attacked me. And by the time I got out of the car, I ran to the parsonage. The pastor, I told the pastor what happened. He called me a Jezebel and wouldn't let me come in to call my father. So I'm walking home that night after that happened, thinking, okay, my pastor didn't believe me. What's going to happen when I go home? Either my parents aren't going to believe me, or my father's going to go and kill this guy and end up in jail. So that was my 13-year-old process. So yeah. I just pushed it down, and I never talked about it again. And it showed up all over my life.
Yes. And, I mean, I hope that you can forgive yourself about this, because,
Oh, I have. Yeah.
You did say.
I was a kid. I was 13. I was a child. I understand that now. Yeah.
So what changed? What did you do inside yourself to handle it along the way? You just pushed it down and that's it?
For many years, I pushed it down. Sex was terrifying for me. Terrifying. It was just never good. I was terribly afraid of men. I dated younger men for most of my life and I didn't realize I was doing it until just recently. And I realized, oh yeah, because I was afraid of older men. So I think, I figured as long as I was the older one, I had the power. So I think that's the story I told myself.
Yeah. Yeah. And how did it affect your relationship with God and your inner spiritual life, your soul?
That's a hard one because I pushed it down so far that it didn't seem to affect me at the time. But I think after I dealt with it, which was only a couple of years ago, I got angry after that. And I got angry for a little while. And then the anger went away. But I did, what happened was I had just joined a new church, and they were having a membership meeting, and they were talking about baptism. And all of a sudden, I was in a meeting with two elders, and I couldn't stop crying. And I realized that the molestation had happened right around the same time I got baptized for the first time. So a lot of that was tied in together. So they suggested I get baptized again, and that's what I did. And that's when I dealt with it. And so I think that was about 5 years ago. And
Okay.
yeah.
And so that was the initiating thing to really start healing.
Yes. Yes. And then I went on a trip back to Staten Island 3 years ago. And I went back to where it happened. And I just sat there, and I just let it in, and then let it out, and then let it go.
Yeah.
So I think I've put it away. I was actually able to pray for both the molester and my pastor, who had said that. And I think that's when I was like, okay, I can let this go now, because I was able to pray for them. And I was like, okay, all right. It's still, it's stuff like that. I don't think ever really leaves you. There's always that little bit of fear and that little uneasiness with men that, and maybe I just need a little more therapy. I don't know, but it's a process. But I've come a long way, I think, with it.
Yeah. So you've done therapy and talked it out, and
yeah,
done some stuff. And do you mind if I ask if
you've done,
have you done like body work and stuff? Have you done
No, that I haven't. I did some traditional therapy. Okay. Not a whole lot. But it seemed, it felt enough. It felt like I had processed it, and I got past it. And I actually I even had a relationship not too long ago. So, and that wasn't terrifying to me. So I think, I'm getting to that place.
Great.
So,
and you said you tied this processing all this stuff, which was really spiritual and sexual and emotional, et cetera, and relational. And that had you start to say hello to different ways to think about your faith. You opened up some boxes. How'd that work?
That was all happening around the same time, when I was coming to terms with that, and when I was trying to figure out what my faith journey was. I've had some I ended up leaving that church that I was in. I used medical marijuana for my Lyme disease, and they were so against it that I had the pastor, saying things to me like, there's no good use for marijuana. Everybody, it was just a big, and I was like, wow. So I left that church. They were also down on women in leadership. I couldn't do that. So, and when I left there, It was around the time, I don't know, it just seemed like this last couple of years, I don't know if it's with the pandemic, I've just seen a lot of hypocrisy in the church, and it just kind of broke my heart. I was so involved in it for so long. And that's almost, it makes me want to cry. It really does, because I was so involved. And then I wonder, was I like that? Was I being one of those hypocritical people? Like, does it foster that? Does that type of religion foster that attitude? I don't know. It's a journey, so I'm not really sure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It seems to me that a whole lot more people are becoming truthful and authentic, and then the realities come out, and we have to figure it out.
Yeah.
In ways and small ways, the church, many facets of the church are dealing with, the fruit is coming home.
Yeah.
Mixed metaphor. The fruit is coming home to roost.
I like that one.
So it'll be interesting to see if the church can, some parts of the church can morph to be a place of truth and love.
Yeah. It's crazy. My last church experience as being in pastoral ministry, we had some stuff going on in that church that it opened my eyes. There were people, the youth pastor was beating up his wife. There things like that. There were such huge problems that I'm like, how can this be going on? Well, you're preaching to these kids love and forgiveness and God and all this, and this is going on. You're like, that threw me. Finding out, I think, being on that side of it and seeing everything that was going on behind the scenes, it was heartbreaking to me. I think that brought me back to the whole molestation thing, because what a hypocritical thing. You're being a chaperone for all these kids, and you're trying to show God and lead the way, but meanwhile, you're being a molester. So I think maybe that triggered my whole thing about the hypocrisy, because I've seen a lot of it, and that breaks my heart. That's why, I might not be living a quote unquote Christian life right now. I drink some wine on the weekends. I smoke pot for, for medicinal purposes. You know what I'm saying? But I'm living my truth, and I'm not being hypocritical about anything anymore. And this is who I am. And I wish people in the church could do that. I think it would be more appealing. I think God would be more appealing to people if the people who were presenting him weren't being fake. I think that's a big thing for me anyway. But the church, I shouldn't, it's not all churches. It's the specific churches that I went to, you know what I mean? That seem
in your experience. Yeah, but it is a thread that we're seeing all over the place. Yeah.
I just don't like to generalize. I don't like to say the church, and then it's, you know what I mean, when it's just really the denomination I was hanging with. So.
Right. Yeah, but the fact is that we're humans, and humans do crazy stuff all the time.
We do, don't we? We do. We truly do.
And we own it. That's one good thing about I've been doing, group and private work for like 15 years professionally. And like one of the greatest gifts is to work with so many people individually to realize that there's so much crazy going on out there. Like that's normal. It's just normal for really weird stuff to be happening.
It is that, like, I don't know. Life is very different than I thought it was. I thought it was one way growing up, and it turned out to be totally different. So
leave it to Beaver.
No, it's not. It's not.
Yeah. And also I wonder about just how we define Christianity. Do we define it as believing certain things or thinking
That's
certain things or behaving certain ways or living like Jesus? Like how do we define it?
that's really hard. I stopped calling myself a Christian. I call myself a Christ follower because I I love Jesus. I love his example. But I think right now to say I'm a Christian is putting me in a political place or in a group setting, and I don't feel like that anymore. I want a spiritual connection with Jesus and with God.
Mhm.
I don't want that. Yeah. Yeah. I don't want that fake, this is how you have to do it. That's dry.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
how has that affected your relationships, this where you stand now?
That's hard to tell right now because I really, in this pandemic, it's been a hard time for relationships. Uh, so I really can't say how that's affected me because I really haven't had enough time with it yet.
Mhm. And what has supported you in this transition? Have there been books or speakers or friends? What's helped you along the way?
Hmm, that's a good question. I've gotten a lot of support from my family, especially one of my nieces. We talk every week, and for like a couple of hours, we have a really
Mhm.
wonderful conversation. And she has been so incredibly supportive of me. And I didn't. She this when I put my first song up, I had no idea. She went and she bought the song. She downloaded it. She sends me, like, she'll get in her car and one of my songs will come on the radio and she'll like take a picture and send it to me. And it's like those kind of things just mean the world to me. I didn't have anybody for a long time. I just found my family. I was adopted and
Oh,
I just found my family 2 years ago.
wonderful.
And I had lost my adopted parents back. My dad passed in 2008 and my mom in 2010. And I was alone. I had nobody. So I spent a lot of years just like alone. And then I find this wonderful, huge family that I've got. And it's amazing. They're all over the place. I've got them in Cleveland, in Florida, in Missouri, in Arkansas. I got family all over the place.
Wow. Was
So
that a
yeah.
hard transition or was it just all joy or how did that transition go?
Oh no, that there was a lot of pain there. That was hard. I thought it was going to be all joy when I first met them, but then I had to deal with the abandonment issues from being adopted and all that, which I never realized I had issues.
You are
Or no,
just
I shouldn't say. I didn't realize I had so many issues. Let's
yeah,
put it that way.
you are really taking it on lately.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You know what? When you get to this age, it's kind of like, all right, well, what are you going to do? You got to face whatever comes. You can't hide from it. You
Mhm.
can't. And most of it, even if things are bad, the experience is generally good. It's like things that I'm going through right now, even if it's bad, I'm like, wow, I'm getting to experience something at 60 that I never thought I would. So if it's good, if it's bad, if it's whatever, it's an experience.
Mhm.
So I'm trying to look at life like that, not looking at it as it's a good thing, it's a bad thing. Just that, wow, it's a thing,
I'm still in the game. Woo!
Yes, exactly, exactly. That's
Seriously. Because for real that there's other ways to do it.
there. That's right. That's right.
Yeah. It can be a lot harder here in the game and you could be not in the game.
That's it. I'm just happy to be in the game. You're right. I'm just happy to be there.
It's wonderful. Wonderful. Okay, so this is a soul leader interview. Do you have any resources or ideas of anything that you thought of before or whatever that you wanted to say to support soul leaders in our journey to be us and to do us and to make our impact?
I think for me, it's like the Nike thing, just do it. That's really my only advice. I spent a lot of years thinking about things and wanting to do things, and maybe we'll do something in a couple of months from now, and that doesn't work. It's truly, it sounds ridiculously simplistic, but it works. Just do it. I always wondered about like writing. Like I always heard like you need to dedicate time and space, and I would just operate out of, oh, I'm inspired, let me write something, and then maybe I wouldn't be inspired for another 6 months or another year, and then I'd write something else. It's the act of the practice of doing it every day. Now I allow myself space. I take at least an hour and I put everything else away. I sit down with my iPad. I put everything else out and I write. And I didn't think that was possible, but that's actually how it works. It's the inspiration stuff. Yeah, you know what? That's fine. And you'll write maybe 5 songs in your life and you'll be done with it. If you want to actually do something as a career or as just something you're serious in, you have to make the space for it. You have to make the time for it. You have to dedicate yourself to it, and then you have to do it. That's really the only advice that I have. But
yeah. Yes, you know, you're reminding me of Stephen Pressfield. He's a quite a popular author who has a side gig of supporting other authors.
that's awesome.
He's got this book like called Going Pro, and that's the main thing. It's just like you do it. You know, you're not a dabbler. You sit down and you do it every day.
Yes, that's it.
And his first one was called The War of Art.
I'll have to read that. That sounds really good.
Yeah, you know, if you go to his website, he's got a lot of free content and a lot of it's really cool what he's developed. And he's developed a team and a whole, you know, there's a lot of followers, but yeah, his big thing is overcoming resistance. You know, if you overcome resistance, you can do it.
He's right.
Yeah.
And
right. Shonda Rhimes with this great book, Year of Yes. Oh, I love her.
Yeah, she's wonderful. She's wonderful.
Like she has to run the gauntlet to get to the space where she can produce. You know, it's like, it's not easy. If it was easy, everybody would do it.
Exactly. But that is the truth. I don't know why I never realized it earlier on, but I'm glad I realized it now. It's making a space, making the commitment, taking the time and just doing it. Even if you don't feel like doing it, even if you're totally uninspired, I'd be having a bad day, whatever. But I notice when I sit down and I put the headphones on and I start the process, my whole attitude will change. Yes. And I get right into it. There's something about just doing it, just taking the time and going for it that just changes it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really does. Thank you. Well, you're really wonderful. And I really, really am inspired by you. And I hope that many other people are.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I've been enjoying this. Thank you for doing this with me. This has been a lot of fun. This really has.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to turn this off.